All right, welcome. My name is Scott Burgess. Welcome to another edition of our Eat and Drink Real Estate Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Realtor Jason Tabour. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, one of the things we were talking about was you're a Marine, correct?
I am.
All right, so how in the world does that get you into real estate? Like, what do you feel you're bringing from that experience to being a realtor?
That's a fascinating question. There's probably a whole bunch of tangents I can take on that, but part of it is my persona. Even though I spent time in the Marine Corps, I do have a very strong independent streak. And that blended well in the Corps, surprisingly. But I think where that background lends to real estate the most is one of the jobs that I had in the Corps. You know, Boy Scouts with big guns. It was fun, but also incredibly serious.
Yeah.
It's the perspective that I took from that. Everyone is a basic frontline rifleman in the Corps, but we all had specialties, and mine was in field radio operations. So I was a communicator.
Okay.
And so having the headsets on, taking radio traffic from frontline infantry units that we're throwing artillery for, tank units, mortar fire, fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters, all that traffic came through me. So we called it the hot seat. And there was constant traffic coming in for hours on end, and you have to set a series of priorities. That's first, that's second, that could be on hold, supply can wait, and you're on.
Yeah.
You get more than, and the parallel to real estate is, if you're a solo operator, you've got more than 5 transactions going on, you are constantly scheduling, prioritizing.
Yeah.
This has to get done, making sure everyone in the chain of communication is handled appropriately in a timely manner.
Yeah, what goes first, what gets second, and all that good stuff.
So that prior experience helped me, especially keeping a cool, calm demeanor while doing it.
Yeah. Field director.
Exactly. And kind of on a parallel tangent with that, another one of my jobs is a embark NCOs. Every time we went on field operations, in that convoy going out, everything had to be on a SOP, standard operating procedure checklist, and it had to get on there, packed in a certain way, and if it didn't come with, well, you didn't have it. The same thing with real estate. If we really wanted to get nerdy about it, there's 183 things that have to go right. You guys specialize this, but if something's out of order, boom,
Yeah.
the entire deal goes up. So that's why at times I'm up in people's business of, hey, these things have to get done, and if I'm not hearing an answer, I'm on it. So that has lent significantly, but my clientele is now more engaging with other realtors and handling transactions that are a little bit tricky. So I don't mind the pressure.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I was gonna say that leads pretty well to kind of driving the bus essentially to get somebody from signing a contract to a closing. Did we get all these checkpoints all the way through?
And especially where I'm headed, where I'm gonna be handling more volume with more realtors, that handling and prioritizing that, the multitasking skill set is already in my toolbox.
Okay.
Yeah.
So dealing with realtors, one other area you said you were working with flippers. What's a specialty that, dealing with these folks, is there any certain way you need to handle, say, working with someone who's rehabbing or flipping homes? Is there certain things you need to do there?
Well, first and foremost, I'm very thankful that those folks are out there helping our inventory. And whether it be a small fix, whether it be paint and carpet or a bed, a bath that needs it, we've got an aging inventory that needs help. They look at the bottom line before they go into a project of, oh, we put this much in, we're gonna get this much out. And with our economy in a dynamic change right now, our dollar is deflating a bit, our commodity prices are rising. And so they're looking at that margin, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Good qualified contractors, is this property worth it? I don't know where it's gonna be a year from now when I'm finished.
Sure.
So my model, and I'd like to either engage them or their affiliated realtor of saying, you already have the entrepreneurial mindset to get into this. If you don't need to cash out straight away, or maybe I need to bring you an investor with you to hold on to that property for 2 or 3 years, when I present a proposal, you can now see the math that your profit margin just went up 8 to 26%.
Oh, wow, okay.
And that's nothing to take a, shake a stick at.
Yeah,
So it's just a conversation, it's a proposal, can you do this? And be aware of it, that it may not be this project, but the next one.
yeah, kind of have a timeline involved, and hey, maybe it's not just a simple, quick transaction, you did your work, let's get out. It's, hey, maybe there's a longer term play there.
Right, and I minimum, I like to do 26, probably objectively at 36 months, because that gives the matching tenant buyer time to consummate that mortgage.
Okay.
The lender's already told me what that future buyer needs to get in line,
Okay,
and it's a nice matchmaking. That's a lot of what I do.
okay. So it's not necessarily, hey, I know what this buyer needs, but there might also be a tie-in of, hey, what the property needs. Like, what sort of state does this need to get to so that that specific buyer, or in general, a buyer, could come in and walk in and purchase this property from you?
Right. This works in many other scenarios, but I mentioned flippers first because they already have the mindset of, I know how to fix up a property.
Yeah, doing the dirty work. How about like landlords? Is that something that kind of ties in with them, or is that kind of a different niche for you, or what?
I would like landlords to have me in mind a year or so beforehand before they start liquidating their inventory.
Okay,
Like, they're already used to being, the property being a revenue generator, but
Yeah.
why not have the last tenant be the purchaser?
okay.
Mhm.
So do you have like a specific kind of plan for those folks? Do you come into a landlord and say, hey, here's my approach to this? Or is everyone different? I mean, how do you treat that stuff when you're
Well,
dealing with landlords?
When we market, I can ascertain within a short amount of time how many people are interested and who is the best qualified. Depending on the mindset of that landlord, like, I'm ready for Florida, and 6 to 12 months, that's my limit.
Okay,
But when they see the profit margin of, hey, we don't have a regular tenant in here or a regular renter, we have a future buyer, that changes the idea.
okay.
So,
you're talking more with landlords about an exit strategy, essentially, to like, not just keep it as a revenue generator, but I think I can bring you somebody that can take this property off your hands, essentially.
correct, and one of the, I think the sales points to that investor landlord is that I can help mitigate some of their commission because that tenant buyer is paying my freight.
Okay.
So that's a nice cost savings benefit if that's of concern to them.
Yeah, well, you're bringing in somebody that's gonna pay you. I mean, obviously, that would change the landscape for that landlord, so to speak.
Right.
What about short sales? Anything there? I know we've talked a little bit about it. Is there any, what do you feel about short sales?
No bueno, no bueno. And I'm still surprised, and I don't want to knock any other realtors or attorneys that is their niche, but I haven't found too many. When someone's in a bit of a tight situation and they need to go,
Yeah,
by ushering in a short sale, you're kind of walking them into a black hole of unknown. It's not within the bank's business model, or let alone anyone's business model. If they lend here, and then your property's now here, now you're in a bit of a begging situation. Please take less. You've lent me this, and I can't pay you back.
yeah,
Anyone's gonna slow roll that answer.
yeah.
And if you need to make a decision and soon, what are your options? And most realtors don't know that you're ushering a black mark on their record. Whereas now they have a viable lease through me, they get to go, and then someone who would absolutely love to have a shot at ownership,
Yeah,
and knowing that the margins are tight, they're paying, my commission is handled.
yeah,
So, and that future revenue generation, is that, okay, those can help with the closing costs.
okay,
So when I hear like, no, I just want to get rid of the property, do you know what's actually gonna happen?
yeah.
And
What's the
there's
full
too
process?
many unknowns to that situation, so why would you lead your client into an unknown where they need to make a decision? But at the bare minimum, it's worth a conversation between us to find out,
Yeah.
here are the options.
And it sounds like from what you're doing with the rehabbers and the landlords, you've kind of got some people on a list or essentially in the back of your mind that, hey, they can also fit into this situation of a short sale because they're looking to come in and purchase something, and maybe now there's a little bit of a discount there or a unique situation that you feel you can handle with them. Is that a fair
Right.
assessment of that?
Right, and the final bow that I could probably put on that is, do you know what the difference between a foreclosure and a short sale is?
Yes.
Right. Foreclosure is a short sale that didn't go well,
Yeah.
so let's avoid those things.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think if everybody's got that mindset, it kind of makes it a different transaction where you're not just, like you said, kind of coming in, hey, let me get the heck out of here, and, you know, you're trying to bring somebody then that could maybe then purchase that property and become a landlord and maybe turn that into a revenue generating thing as opposed to just finding any old buyer out there that, you know, maybe it's a quick turn. Or that collapses and now you got what you said, a foreclosure, right?
Right.
Banks don't want to be landlords.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
all right, one interesting concept is the yellow submarine. What in the heck is that?
It kind of came jesting, joking around, and we're trying to brand, me and my team, we got 4 guys,
Okay.
all of us Marines, we got 1 Navy guy, and he's the one in control of the levers on the submarine,
Okay.
you know, the technical stuff, the CRM, the marketing stuff, and he and I chat every Thursday morning religiously at 05:30, and we hit it for an hour and a half. We've been at this now for 3 years. We've been working on this model quite a bit longer. But we're trying to figure out how to explain what we're looking at in the landscape and what other realtors should be looking at if we're gonna partner or affiliate with each other.
Okay.
And the 3 U's is underwater, undervalued, underconditioned.
Okay.
So a quick retread of what each one of them is underwater, that's kind of like a short sale situation where,
Sure.
you know, property values are here, but you owe more than
More
that.
than
What
that.
do you do? Let's match a short-term lease purchase in that situation. Undervalued, that someone just put a ton of money into the property. I mean, gem upon gem, it's a shiny penny on the block.
Yeah.
You know, marble and stained. And I understand their perspective. It's like, no, it's premium. They should get this. The market will not bear that. And it's just, if someone needs a loan on that,
Yeah.
it's just not gonna happen.
Right.
Why not let some time elapse with someone out there will pay a premium and say, oh yeah, I want this, that whatever happened during COVID, but look, I've got significant outlay of money, just give me a couple of years to swing that mortgage.
Okay.
Perfect for scenarios like that. And then this will never go away, and that, you know, the property is tired. It needs help of some sort, and some folks out there are handy. They've got money down, and I said, look, I could care less about that, the family room that needs this and this. I'm pretty handy.
Yeah.
I could do that.
Let me get into the property, I'll take care of doing it.
Right, we'll
Yeah,
we'll
okay.
put a future strike price on the house, and as long as it appraises out, but it's no longer an issue. That goes away. So those are the three lanes, the 3 U's of the submarine that just kind of catchy to remember, and it honors our Navy guy who spent, you know, a career in the Navy as a submariner.
Okay.
So it works.
Huh? Sounds
Yeah.
like you got a plan for it, so.
Right, right.
What in the world does Chicago pizza have to do with real estate?
Well, I guess my quick answer is not a damn thing, but no, I've got a story to that. I've had pizza all across the country, and I've been to all 50 states except 2, and they just don't make pizza like they do in Chicago. My favorite place is out in Homewood, the original Aurelio's, the old oven. And it's a converted old bus barn, beautiful wood beams. It's a really cool place to get together with folks. So let's just say we get together and we're having that pie, big fiesta, cheese, sausage, extra sauce, none of that extra nonsense. You know, pineapple, forget about it. The extra sauce is striped on top, in it, baking on top, it gives it a little extra tang. So picture coming out, it's on the table. We gotta give it about 5 minutes to cool down, because it will burn your mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
So at the same time, before we dive in, I'm ordering a small pizza to take home. Because this pie's getting killed, or if there's any left over, you're going home with it. So similar to a lease purchase is that here is the existing price, or we'll say future price,
Okay.
but the revenue generation for the future, that's what you're going home with. So doing a short-term lease purchase is that you get to have your pie, and that extra income is in the oven for you to take home at a future date.
Okay.
So that's what Chicago Pizza has to do with real estate in my world.
There you go.
So-
Tie it to something you don't know to something you do know.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Now, we've talked about, you have an organization, this NNRES.
Yes.
Talk to me about that. What is it? What's kind of the concept behind it? What are you trying to accomplish there? What's the goal of this?
Every realtor needs a plan B.
Okay.
That anything on the landscape that's sitting more than 90 days, there is a story attached with it. Something is just not right.
Okay.
Most managing brokers, they know their lane. They know their people, they know compliance, and it's either listing, buying and selling, or renting. It's one or two lanes.
Okay.
There's a whole slew of things that can happen in between, a whole bunch of different programs that need to be mainstreamed. They used to, back in the 1970s, when we had 17+ interest rates, a whole lot of these deals were done in lease purchases, and somehow over the decades, we've forgotten about it.
Okay.
Well, I hope we don't go back to those times, but we're seeing something right now.
Yeah.
But at the very least, I want our realtors to have options of, Jay, I don't know what to do with this property. We're out of options, and to me, that's not a good excuse in any situation. You need to go to someone and say, what about this?
So what do you want for your clients for this? And your clients, I'm assuming in this scenario, are other brokers, is that correct?
Yes.
And what are you trying to get them, other than just, hey, there's something out there? Do you kind of have maybe an overarching like goal for them, like, hey, a certain number of transactions, or is it just they look at things differently? What are you trying to get across to them?
Well, if you don't mind, I'll separate that question into two. One is the overarching goals for me and other realtors, and then the other is what do we want for our clients?
Yes.
The exciting answer is question number one, so we'll go with that one. I came across a statistic years ago of what the numbers were attached to the top 1, 2, and 3% of realtors. And it was just one of those numbers that you're like, really?
Okay.
Those are attainable, but how do you get to the top 1 and 2 percentile? So 3% is 60 deals per year.
Okay.
As a solo operator, that would be a real challenge.
Yeah, 5 a month and on average.
You're hustling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
From there to 2% is 400 transactions.
Wow, that's a pretty big jump.
It is, so you definitely need a team for that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to fathom doing 1,000 deal. Did I say a month? $1,000 per, or 1,000 transactions per year is the top 1 percentile.
Yeah.
With what we've got going on right now, knowing that the statistics in the past have been 1 out of every 10 deals has an issue on it, whether it be a
Okay.
busted appraisal, an inspection issue, it's sitting too long in the market, there's a short sale. That percentile is now starting to go upwards towards 15–20% of the analysis that I'm doing. And I'm like, there's a whole lot of realtors that I need to be networking with and should be
Yeah.
future business of citywide title and NNRES. So that's the vision that I have, and so I'm not gonna get to the 400 by myself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get there with other realtors, that by cooperation, collaboration,
Okay.
strategizing, putting things together, we will get to those numbers together.
And is it, do you feel getting to those numbers, you've got to, not pick apart, but you've got to use these other deals you're talking about with your rehabbers and maybe talking to landlords? It's not a conventional thing that probably most brokers do, but it's just a different avenue that's going to get you to that number with your team.
Precisely.
To get from that, I mean, that's a big jump to go from 60 a year to 400.
Well, that's why my engagement every day is that the more realtors I talk to during the day, the more I enjoy my day. Is because they have their own portfolio of clients and customers, and they're always coming across new properties. So the more folks who are like-minded in that way,
Yeah.
the more we'll be able to help the real estate industry in our region.
So when you're talking to those folks about their, I don't, maybe troubled deals, if, I don't know if that's how you wanna say it, their difficult deals, we'll say, is there like a certain percentage that are always this, like, hey, the biggest percentage is just things that have sat too long on the market, or they're just things where people don't wanna do something to the property? Is there kind of an area there of those difficult deals that sticks out to you? Or is it kinda just across the board?
You know, one thing that I have come across, and it's more or less a perspective of the mindset of a seller. And I look at it two different ways, that either the realtor is kind of handcuffed to placating to their seller, like, no, I think the price is here. And it's almost like a hostage negotiation scenario where, okay, Mr. Seller, if you think that your property is all that in a bag of chips, well, you can garner that price, but it's gonna cost you something. It's time and terms.
Okay.
So at least I can usher to that realtor, here's a proposal, here are the numbers in writing. If they want their price, this is what they have to do to get it.
Yeah.
And at the very least, they're giving their client an option. And I think that's leading to question number 2. What do we want for our clients? Options. Americans want options.
Yeah.
If A or B is not working, is there C, D, E? And that's what I'm bringing to the table.
Okay. You mentioned a term before, a nobody, but spelled K-N-O-W, body, nobody. What in the world is a nobody?
Well, it started off with, it is a derogatory term in my world. If someone knows everything and anyone, and we all know that one or two people, and I don't know how they have any friends. But, you know, with the advent of this, it's pretty easy now to say, oh yeah, I'm an instant expert on this. Here's the issue with that, is that your search engine is giving you a set of ranking type choice pieces of information.
Okay.
I guarantee mine is different than yours. That neighbor down the block has a different set of, the first 10 responses in that, it's gonna be completely different than ours. So how do you know that you're getting valid intel?
Yeah.
And especially with ChatGPT, where now you're putting amalgamations of intel together.
Yeah.
If there's false intel in their searches, that's gonna come up, and now you are regurgitating something that is erroneous or false. And I'm not saying that it is, but unless you talk to an expert, whether it be a title company, a realtor, an attorney that has done hundreds of deals a certain way, that you know the nuances of a particular deal, you're not gonna pick that up on the phone. And what, are you gonna go dig through 100 different searches to get a valid answer? So I'm a bit of a nerd. I love new intel, and I feel like a little professor next time, you know, I get a hold of something, I'm playing with it, Rubik's Cube, but it still has to be tried and proven until I take it and utilize it in any type of negotiation.
Because it sounds like what you're talking about is I may be able to, if I'm a novice, or I'm just a seller in the marketplace, and I Google whatever, and I have, of these 10 responses, maybe the third one's the most important to me. It sounds more like what you're talking about is that experience versus what I can find on a Google search. Is that fair?
Oh, and I've got an example to back it up. If you Google rent to own, every single one of them talks about rent credits. Absolutely not. You better have an attorney involved, because if you start getting involved in rent credits, you're tap dancing on the Dodd-Frank. And no, to me, I never use rent credits.
Okay.
You're coming to the table with cash for that property, and nothing needs to be credited to you. That's not the business model. This is an investor type scenario, and you are the client, and then at the end of the term, you're gonna consummate and get your own loan. There's no rent credits involved, nor should there be.
Okay.
And that's not an argumentative point, but according to search engines, it's in every single one.
Yeah.
So when someone
You
comes
should
to
ask
me,
for this.
right, they're asking me the question, where did you learn that from? And they're like, exactly,
Yeah.
right.
So are you, it sounds like what you're saying with everything we're dealing with here is, do you kind of consider yourself a realtor's broker? Is that a fair statement?
Well, it's kind of like borderline, you know, what's a man's man, which I used to mock. Is that some big burly outdoorsman, hunter, fisherman? Yeah, guilty, but I don't play that card. Here's my picture of like what a realtor's broker is. Someone who is in the know as far as paying attention with what's going on with NAR.
Okay.
And in their latest economic reports and following Inman News, which is our industry magazine, of what are the dynamic changes going on in the landscape. And same right here in Illinois. What is Illinois Realtors doing, and what legislation is RPAC, the Realtor Political Action Committee, what are they working on? What do we need to advise our clients on? And having spent 5 years on the Government Affairs Committee, when I get into a conversation with a realtor, I mean, those things enable us to discuss, what is your opinion of what's going on with the economy, the interest rates, and how does that affect our clients? So that's the value that we bring to the table, and that's, I guess in a roundabout way, it's called leadership. So when I talk to realtors, I've got something to provide, that are you seeing what I'm seeing? And I'm asking the same question back, because they probably know something I don't. And that's how we learn together, and that's forming alliances and getting things done.
So it's more of a two-way street,
Absolutely.
not just, hey, here's what I have to offer, but what you have to offer, what can I
I've
get
never
from
bought
you?
into that authoritarian type, dominant type leadership. More laissez-faire, democratic, give and take, because it's all about getting the job done. Where are we heading? What's the mission? Let's get it done as proficiently as possible.
So speaking of that, what would be your call to action right now for folks listening to this? If it's a broker, if it's a consumer, you might have two different approaches there, but what's the call to action? How do we engage with you?
I'd like realtors to get their spotting glasses or binoculars out and what's in their particular landscape of, is there anything sitting on the market 90 days? Do they have any, short sales that are in their purview? They're flippers and rehabbers. What is their next house? Are they open to a new strategy?
Okay.
A busted appraisal, that now they're stuck with this number. So there's a handful of scenarios, or they can't get away from an inspection. So we talked about not problematic properties, but properties with issues that things are not moving as they should be, or they were a couple of years ago. Exactly. So and knowing that in very Chicago terminology, I got a guy that once I see one of these things, call Jason, and let's see, he could at least shoot me a proposal. It really doesn't take me that much time, and at least something for us to discuss with their seller. Say, is this within your risk tolerance in your wheelhouse so you can have Chicago pizza style investment with your own property?
Don't threaten me with food. So what is the easiest way, so people hearing you, they like this approach, it makes sense, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
I like talking by phone. I don't avoid my phone whatsoever.
There you go.
Yeah, 708-334-3401.
All right, you got an email for folks too?
I do jtab008, which is one better than bond, @gmail.com.
Fantastic. Well, I think we got a lot of good information here today, and I know some folks are going to reach out to you. Thank you so much for coming by today, Jason.
Thank you, Scott and Citywide Title, for having me. You guys have a great thing going on. You guys are leading the field.
Good deal. Thank you,
Right
sir.
on.